The city of Giron gleamed beneath twin suns, a sprawl of spires and floating walkways where energy ribbons pulsed along the skyways and hovercrafts hummed overhead. The Empire's majesty was on full display today. The grand parade was meant to showcase its glory. Spectators, alien and human alike, lined the streets, craning their heads to glimpse the royal procession. At the center of it all was Prince Kale, the alien queen's heir. Young, inquisitive, and impatient with courtly etiquette, Kale was both a symbol of the future and a restless soul. As the procession wound through the avenues, Kale's curiosity got the better of him. Eyes scanning the crowd, he leaned slightly out of his hovering platform, eager to see the city beyond the palace walls, the alleys, the markets, the world his tutors warned him to avoid. In a heartbeat, he slipped from the platform, vanishing into the shadows of the side streets. The royal hovercraft shuddered. Guards raised alarms, sensors blared. By the time the Queen's entourage realized what had happened, Kale was gone. Panic erupted. Court officials whispered accusations of sabotage. Drones buzzed frantically, scanning every corner of the city. The Queen, regal and imposing, stood frozen for a moment, her piercing eyes scanning the chaos, before turning to Captain Elias Dre, the human guard assigned as part of the interspecies liaison program. Elias, tall and composed, had trained under the most rigorous alien protocols. He was disciplined, observant, and known for his unorthodox thinking. As he moved through the palace corridors, analyzing the security feeds and street cameras, he noticed subtle irregularities: a faint energy signature trailing the streets, a disabled surveillance drone, a set of footprints that defied the palace's biometric records. Something was off. This was no ordinary disappearance. Rumors flew through the palace halls. Some advisors claimed Kale had orchestrated his own disappearance, a juvenile test of independence. Others murmured of a kidnapping, a plot to destabilize the empire. The Queen's fury was palpable. The thought that her son might have been harmed made her composure falter. Elias realized that whatever had happened, it would require more than brute force or rigid protocol to solve. That evening, Elias discovered a small, hidden note etched in a script only someone meticulous and clever could decipher. The message was simple yet enigmatic. "I am not lost, I am learning." It was enough to convince him that Kale had ventured out intentionally, or at least had left a trail designed to test anyone who pursued him. As the twin suns set, bathing Giron in shades of amber and violet, Elias made his decision. He would leave the relative safety of the capital and follow Kale's trail into the city's dangerous outskirts. There were hostile gangs, unstable terrain, and countless unknown hazards. But Elias's human ingenuity and determination would be his guide. One thing was certain: in a world dominated by alien intellect and protocol, it was the resilience and creativity of a human that might make all the difference. The hunt had begun, and neither prince nor guard would emerge unchanged. Elias navigated the winding streets of Xiron's lower sectors, where the glow of the palace was a distant memory and shadows stretched between crumbling powers. Here the city was raw and untamed, an intricate maze of markets, back alleys, and slums where the Empire's most marginalized citizens lived. Alien gangs patrolled the streets with weaponized drones, and even the slightest misstep could draw deadly attention. Yet Elias moved with careful precision, relying on his instincts and ingenuity to stay unseen. The trail Kale left behind was subtle, almost playful. Small energy pulses, barely perceptible, flickered at the edges of the human sensors. Elias realized that these weren't mistakes. They were deliberate signals. The prince was clever, testing anyone who pursued him, perhaps even daring a human to keep up. Every footprint and energy signature seemed to tell a story, teasing Elias forward. Meanwhile, Kale moved through the lower sectors with a mixture of fear and fascination. The prince had never seen this side of the empire. Children scavenging from discarded tech, merchants bartering with ingenuity rather than wealth, citizens adapting to hardship with astonishing cleverness. Each encounter challenged Kale's perception of his world and his place within it. The prince's rebellion was not just against courtly rules. It was a journey into understanding his people. As night fell, the streets grew dangerous. Aliens who resented the palace's authority prowled openly, while automated patrols scanned for intruders. Elias's human adaptability became an advantage. He navigated the complex social cues of the alien slums, used improvised tools to bypass security systems, and even bartered for information without revealing his purpose. His reputation as a human guard, resourceful, resilient, and unpredictable, gave him leverage in a world that underestimated humanity. Eventually, Elias stumbled upon the first real confrontation. A group of rogue enforcers had cornered a small alien child who witnessed Kale's passage. Elias intervened, using a combination of martial skill and clever distractions, proving that a single human could outthink and outmaneuver a squad of trained alien enforcers. The fight was brief but decisive, and the child, grateful and awestruck, provided a crucial clue. Kale had been seen moving toward a derelict research facility on the outskirts of the city, a place rumored to be forbidden and dangerous. The revelation raised the stakes. Kale was not merely hiding, he was seeking knowledge, testing himself against the forbidden and potentially walking into peril. Elias realized that reaching him would require more than speed. It would demand courage, ingenuity, and trust. As he prepared to leave the relative safety of the lower sectors, Elias understood that every choice mattered. One misstep could mean the end of the hunt and possibly the life of the prince he was determined to save. With a deep breath, Elias ventured into the wilderness beyond the city, the twin suns now replaced by a cold alien night. The hunt had become a chase, and every step carried the weight of responsibility. Somewhere out there, Kale was learning, testing, and growing, and Elias would have to match him every step of the way. The derelict research facility loomed at the edge of the alien wilderness, half buried in jagged cliffs and battered by years of storms. Once a center of advanced experimentation, it was now forbidden territory, its corridors silent except for the hum of dormant machinery. Elias approached cautiously, analyzing the energy patterns that flickered faintly from within. Kale's subtle trail was still there, deliberate and teasing, almost as if the prince was daring the human to catch up. Inside, the facility was a labyrinth of empty labs and broken containment units. Elias moved like a shadow, avoiding collapsed floors and unstable energy conduits. Every corner of the building whispered of danger, but Elias's human intuition guided him through the hazards. And then he found him. Kale was curled up in a dim chamber, exhaustion etched across his young face. His clothes were torn, his energy readings unstable, but his eyes lit up the moment he saw Elias. Relief and trust mingled in that gaze, unspoken yet profound. It was a fragile, human moment between two species standing in the ruins of alien technology. "Kale," Elias said quietly, kneeling beside him, "it's time to go." Kale shook his head. I couldn't stay there. There's so much to see, so much they don't tell us. I needed to understand." Elias understood then. The prince's disappearance was never about escape. It was a journey of discovery, a way to see his empire beyond the palace walls, to confront its flaws and understand its people. And now, faced with real danger,
Kale had learned that the world was far more perilous than curiosity alone could navigate. Their reunion was cut short by the distant rumble of approaching patrols. Someone, or something, was hunting them. Kale had underestimated the risk, and now they had to move fast. Elias's training and quick thinking became their lifeline. Using improvised tools, the human disabled security drones and manipulated environmental controls to create diversions. Kale followed, his agility and newfound resourcefulness complementing Elias's experience. Together, human and prince became a coordinated unit, their bond growing stronger with every calculated move. As they fled the facility, Kale shared what he had learned, evidence of a hidden faction within the palace seeking to manipulate him, to use his disappearance as a political lever. Elias realized the stakes were even higher than he imagined. Not only was the prince at risk, but the stability of the empire itself hung in the balance. Outside, under the pale light of distant moons, Elias and Kale paused to catch their breath. The wilderness stretched before them, dangerous and untamed, yet offering a strange sense of freedom. Kale looked at Elias with a mixture of gratitude and determination. "I trust you," he said. "I wouldn't have survived without you." Elias allowed himself a small, rare smile. The bond between human and alien, between guard and prince, had been forged not in ceremony or protocol, but in shared danger, ingenuity, and courage. They were no longer just hunter and quarry. They were allies, bound by necessity and respect, ready to face whatever threats awaited them on the journey back to the palace. The return would be perilous, but together they had a chance, not just to survive, but to change the future of the empire.
The journey back to Zyrown was tense. Every step through the wilderness tested Elias and Kale. Treacherous cliffs, unstable terrain, and the ever-present threat of patrols from the factions that sought to exploit the prince's disappearance. Yet, despite the danger, Kale moved with a quiet confidence, bolstered by Elias's guidance and his own hard-won insight. The human guard had become more than a protector. He was a mentor, a guide, and in some ways a bridge between two very different worlds. As they neared the capital, Elias devised a plan. They would not simply return quietly. They needed evidence to expose the hidden faction plotting against the young prince. Using improvised sensors and Kale's intimate knowledge of the palace's lesser-known passages, they infiltrated the inner sanctum under the cover of night. Every shadow, every whisper of wind felt like a potential threat, but also an opportunity. Inside the palace, the tension was palpable. The queen's advisors had splintered into rival factions, suspicion and fear poisoning every decision. When Elias and Kale appeared before the queen, human and prince emerged together, united, unbowed, and carrying proof of the conspiracy. Screens displayed recordings of secret meetings, messages between the schemers, and evidence that their plan had been designed to destabilize the throne. The queen's gaze swept over Elias first, her eyes narrowing. Humans were not naturally trusted in her court, and yet here was one who had not only protected her son, but outmaneuvered her schemers. Recognition slowly replaced suspicion, and she turned to Kale. "You were reckless," she said softly, her voice trembling with a mixture of relief and indignation. "Do you understand what you risked?" Kale met her gaze evenly. "Yes, Mother, but I also understand more about our people, about myself, and about the value of trust. I couldn't have done it alone, not without him." He gestured toward Elias. The queen studied the human guard for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Your loyalty is extraordinary," she admitted. "It is a quality our empire has underestimated." The court murmured in astonishment. Human ingenuity and courage, long dismissed, had saved the heir and revealed treachery within the palace. In the days that followed, Cale emerged transformed. Not just a curious prince, but a leader tempered by experience, empathy, and courage. Elias remained by his side, earning respect not only as a protector, but as a symbol of humanity's potential in an alien-dominated galaxy. The Queen implemented reforms, subtly influenced by the lessons Cale had learned during his disappearance, while the schemers were quietly removed from power. The palace once again gleamed under twin suns, yet beneath the surface, something had changed. The human guard's daring had shifted perceptions, proving that ingenuity, loyalty, and courage were not bound by species. Cale and Elias's bond endured, a testament to cooperation, trust, and the unpredictable brilliance of humanity. As the prince looked out over the city from the palace spire, Elias beside him, he realized that adventure, courage, and the human spirit opened doors his royal tutors could never have imagined. The Empire had survived the crisis stronger, more aware, and forever marked by the lesson that even in a galaxy of advanced alien empires, humanity had a role and a power of its own. The hunt had ended, but the story of trust, ingenuity, and bravery had only just begun.